Hi, my name is Laura Miyazaki, and I am a co-chair of the Immersion program with UPC for the Mandarin. And we are so excited that you have joined us to hear all the benefits of what a second language immersion program provides for your student. We wanted to let you have a little shout out. Melissa Schwartz was the first person to get us together and let us know that we had a voice here at the district, and what a great district we have. And 3 years ago, we were able to meet with Dr. Corson and actually get some new curriculum for our Mandarin program, as well as some much needed development with Cristina Ladas for our teachers. And now look, we are so happy to have Cristina Ladas join us and give us the benefits of this learning a second language in immersion setting. Also, I just wanted to state that we hear the term DLI. DLI represents dual language immersion. So that's why you'll see DLIM or DLIS, indicating Spanish and Mandarin. We have Spanish at our Sandpiper Elementary School, and we have Mandarin at our Whispering Wind Academy. And we have now moved to Sunrise for both programs in Spanish and Mandarin, and also have moved on to Horizon with the Spanish at this point, and to follow next year with Mandarin. Please let us know if you have any questions. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you so much.
Okay, so is that over to me now? Okay, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Melissa, and thanks to all of United Parent Council, UPC, for sponsoring this event. I'm super honored that you guys called me to talk about my absolutely favorite topic. I'm Maria Cristina Ladas. I'm also known Mandarin Chinese teachers as Lan Ke Li. And I know we're going to spend the next hour together. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have taken some time out of your evening to join us. I know that many of you are probably in the middle of dinner or doing dishes or whatever, but you know what? Every little bit that you hear about this topic counts, and hopefully you can take at least one little tidbit back with you in your back pocket and come back to this presentation later if you would like more information. I will be providing you with a link to this presentation as a PDF, and it has a lot of embedded links that you can come back to later to follow up, because an hour is definitely not long enough for me to spend talking about this. But so for a quick introduction of myself, this is an important year for me because it marks my 30th year in education. This was my Christmas card 30 years ago when I was a second and third grade multi-age bilingual education teacher in Chicago. And I'm actually in the top there, in the middle. I don't know if you can see me, but I was charged with starting a bilingual education program in a school that had a lot of Hispanic Latino population that did not speak English. And so my job was to teach them English and let them forget their Spanish. And that was totally not okay with me. I was like, this is so wrong. So I got into my master's program and started looking for some other model that would not be a subtractive model towards bilingual education. And that's when I found dual language. At that point, it was called dual language 30 years ago. So fast forward to these days, these are my own 3 kids who were able to participate in the program that I was helping develop and grow in Cave Creek School District. I went from teaching to coordinator to I've done a lot of different things, program evaluation through grants, and most recently director of World Language and Immersion programs in Cave Creek. And now I am consulting for Language Solutions, which is my consulting company. But my 3 kids went through the program as we were building it, right? Flying the plane, building it. while you're flying. And I'm happy to say that they turned out okay. This is Antonio on the right-hand side. He just graduated from ASU with a marketing degree and a minor in Spanish. Now works for Vanguard in Scottsdale. The one on the left is in Spain. He's up at NAU. He's in mechanical engineering, and he will be double majoring with a major in Spanish linguistics. And he will be doing a great program through NAU. If any of you are like wanting to jot these things down, it's called the Interdisciplinary Global Program, IGP program. He will study abroad there in Spain one semester and do an internship for the second semester in mechanical engineering in Spanish in Spain. So my middle one is going to be a nurse. And so she's already working in a healthcare facility using her Spanish. And each of the kids took a different thing away from it. And that's one of the things that you'll see today. I think that there's so many benefits to this program that your child will fit into one of these categories, and they will take away one or maybe many benefits of this program, depending on their own personalities. This is kind of an analogy of my life. It's been a windy road. It's been a bumpy road there. My career in this area has been a little unexpected twists and turns, but there's always been some politics behind language education, and that's just the way it is. So I applaud this UPC group for being advocates in this area. And if things start to heat up again with the English only legislation in the legislature, I'll tap into your group so that you can go down and share your testimony, because it's just always there. I've had programs wiped out from under my feet twice now in my career in the 30 years. And so it's definitely an ongoing battle. So kudos to you for being advocates and stepping forward and taking charge and getting this message out consistently about the benefits of these programs. So our time together is going to be split into 3 segments. We're going to talk about why DLI. We're going to talk about some definitions, because everything has been evolving for 30 years. How DLI, how do we do this? And then we'll end with talking about the program goals, a little bit about the programs in PV. And we'll stop. I'll have little segments where I take a little pause. I'll have an FAQ slide come up, and then you're free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat box. I'll glance over. I'm using 2 screens, so I apologize if I'm like doing this with my head, but trying to keep track of everything. So with that, I will get going. So let's start by defining DLI, right? There's been a lot of terminology. When I started teaching, it was called bilingual education. There wasn't really even a good term for it. Then it was dual language. Then it was foreign language immersion. And the latest is really dual language immersion. Dual language immersion is now considered an umbrella term. And under that umbrella, there are different models that are acceptable, research-based models that depend on what your demographic in your school is, what your the demographic, the makeup of the language that is spoken by your students, and the goals, some of the goals of the program. So we will focus on the program model that is at Sandpiper for purposes of this presentation. But DLI is for short, so you'll hear DLI. Another term that is used now, we used to say, the target language was the other language other than English, and that's kind of evolved to now we call it the partner language. So we use 2 languages, English and then a partner language. Okay, so you'll hear me say partner language, and you might even see PL somewhere. That's what that means. So that is DLI. And I wanted to give you a very, very short definition that I got from one of my colleagues in Delaware. We always try to find the simplest way to explain what we do. And my definition was a little bit longer than this. And then I heard her use this, and I'm like, I'm going to borrow that. I like it. If you need to understand what we do, It's called, we are schooling in 2 languages. We're doing school in 2 languages. Okay. Now that seems like a pretty easy concept, but we're going to move into, okay, why do we do this? And then the how. So why do we do this? One word: opportunity. There are so many opportunities that come along if you have a DLI program in terms of additional job opportunities for students once they are out in the real world. Amazing opportunities for the brain to grow in ways that it cannot continue, that it does not grow in the same way if you learn languages later. There's a window of opportunity when children are very young, and as a way of how their brain acquires language, that's just different from how it acquires it when they're much older. So opportunities for the brain. There's an opportunity for children to feel like they have a place in this world and to feel like they understand where they're placed in this world and to have a little piece of the world inside of them. We're finding that these programs really help build a dual sense of identity in children, and that they come out at the other end of their schooling with kind of a dual identity and just a real appreciation for other cultures and a real comfortable feeling when they are out in the world. They're not afraid of it. It's just like, okay, yeah, it's easy. The last opportunity to highlight is it gives students an opportunity to do a program that's challenging and something that they can do. And it's that we always talk about how it's a program with can do's. What can you do in the language? That's what it's about. So these opportunities are just so far reaching that a lot of times you don't even realize it until you see your kids coming out of education on the other end. Another opportunity is for them to get the Arizona Seal of Biliteracy. This is kind of fun because it's relatively new, last couple of years. The Arizona Seal of Biliteracy recognizes high school graduates that can show proficiency in English and another language. And I won't go into the real specifics about exactly what they need to receive the Seal of Biliteracy, but I did put the link at the bottom, and they do get a stamp on their transcript, on their certificate, graduation diploma, and they also get it notated on their transcript so that when all of these high school seniors are starting to go off to universities carrying the Arizona Seal of Biliteracy, or as you'll see in this next slide, all of these states that are in blue have adopted a Seal of Biliteracy. So in just the last few years, all of a sudden there's a growing number of high school seniors taking this transcript to their university, and universities are starting to have to pay attention to this. And in some states, some universities are granting credit for the Seal of Biliteracy. We're not quite there yet in Arizona, but we're working on it. So just, I would say 6 years ago, this map was almost white in terms of nobody was anywhere. So it's been a very, very fast movement, spread like a wildfire across the United States. And I'm, very, very honored to say that we did it up in Cave Creek before it was even a thing. And then we invited the state superintendent of schools to come learn about it. And we had her tour and talk to some students about it. And we said, hey, some states are doing this crazy thing called the Seal of Biliteracy. And we got legislation passed in Arizona. So, that's the power that parents can have. You get groups together, parents and people who believe, language educators, and we can do things. So it's been an exciting thing. One of the reasons that we felt like this was such an important piece. Sorry about that. It looks like some of my text is going off of but okay, I will fill in the blanks for you here. One of the reasons the Seal of Biliteracy is so important is because we don't want to have another generation of students that go through 2 years of a language program and then they say, well, I don't remember anything, because that's really kind of a waste of time. So we want to make their time useful, and we want them to be able to actually use the language to their advantage. I mean, it's to everybody's advantage that we have a multilingual workforce out there. So use it or lose it. So the Arizona Seal of Biliteracy has to be done in the last 2 years of high school. And so it's best if that really helps encourage kids to stay in the program and go through the hoops to get that. Okay, so let's get into some other definitions. And I know most of you have your cameras off, so I will just move forward with this one, but think about some key words and phrases that would define how well someone speaks a language. There's a lot of terminology that's thrown out there, like how fluent is somebody? Oh, my child is very fluent, or my child is very advanced in their language. Well, we need to come up with some common terminology. And so we use a term called proficiency. And when I say we, I mean people who are language educators who follow research-based programming under the umbrella of ACTFL, which is a national organization for language educators. And basically proficiency, this is another definition I borrowed from a colleague of mine at ACTFL, Paul Sandrock. He boiled it down to the independent use of language. That is the goal of the DLI programs. We want to make sure that we are raising children and students and young adults and adults to be able to independently use language out in the real world. I am a perfect example of it having gone wrong. I actually took French for 6 years and I cannot speak French. So I have no independent use of the language in French, except I can read some and I understand some, but my proficiency in speaking was never developed because it was a grammar-based program. So proficiency is almost, it's like we approach languages from a different perspective. Grammar definitely has a place, but grammar is brought in under the context of whatever is being studied, as opposed to grammar in the old days was the driver, right? In the front seat. Now proficiency is in the front seat, grammar is in the back seat. Still need it, but in a different way. So that is the golden standard. Now, I want to just go over quickly so that you know when we say the independent use of language, well, there's a lot of different types of language. And so here they are. These are the 5 different areas of language that are consciously addressed and developed in good DLI programs. The first one is interpersonal communication. That means 2 people talking back and forth. It requires listening and speaking, asking questions and answering, and it's its own area of communication. The next one is presentational speaking. That's a different mode. That is a one-way speaking skill, and when someone has to give a presentation. So that can start in kindergarten with show and tell. And then there's presentational writing. Obviously, anything that is written is a presentation of outgoing communication. Interpretive listening is any type of incoming communication, and interpretive reading is incoming communication through the visual area. And so those are the 5 areas that our teachers and the teachers at PV, and I can attest because I've worked with PV as a consultant for a couple of years now, that they've been working really hard to incorporate all of those into everything that they do. So I'm going to take a quick little break here and just glance over at my chat box and see if there's any questions or any comments, or if anybody wants to unmute, feel free to do so. Okay, looks like my chat box is quiet, so I will continue. So we have all of these areas of language. Well, now you're starting to see it's a little bit more complicated than just schooling in 2 languages, because we base what we do on what's out there in the real world. So there's two main proficiency scales that are used out in the real world. There's the one on the left, which is the inverted pyramid from ACTFL that started here in the United States. It's used across the United States, and it's also used now in some other countries. And then the CEFR levels, the one on the right, CEFR stands for the Common European Framework of Reference. And so that one is obviously more commonly used in Europe and in parts of South America. But both of those are crosswalked because we have such an international economy these days that people who move jobs and need to have a language proficiency attached to their jobs, they can just, if they have a proficiency level given out by a test from one of the scales, they can crosswalk it to the other scale. And so basically we use the one on the left, but again, it can be crosswalked to anything on the CEFR level if they're going to be working in Europe or South America, or with those people working in the US with those people. Those are kind of interchangeable scales. The important thing is that we use them starting in kindergarten. We all are using what's used out in the real world. So let's break it down. You can see there's different sections in here. There's a blue section, a green section, an orange section, and they kind of gradient into each other, meaning there's not like a necessarily, there is a hard stop line there, but it's not like one day you just wake up and you're in the new color. It kind of changes, it happens gradually. And so what we do is we have novice is blue, intermediate is green, and advanced is orange. And that's as far as I'm going to show you, because superior and distinguished, I've never met or spoken to a person who's been distinguished. It's such a high level. And superior, if you're just an amazing communicator, you can get to superior by the end of college, never really any sooner. So the pyramid goes up and out. And so that kind of goes to show that the higher you go, the longer it takes to go higher. And the more things you have to be able to talk about, the more abstract the concepts become. And it just is, just takes longer. So really quickly here, I'll just show you, I'll give you some visuals to help you remember. So blue, the novice level, is kind of like a parrot. They can repeat, they memorize things that are said. And if we apply this to kids in the classroom, they can kind of say back things, mimic and say back short little phrases and maybe a simple sentence, but everything's from a memorized perspective. And that's great. If anybody starts learning a language in high school or even later in life, everybody starts at the bottom of this pyramid in blue. Everybody will start as a parrot. Then they move into survivor, the green. A survivor means they start to create with their own language, but just like characteristics of somebody who's trying to be out there surviving in the middle of the wilderness with maybe some natives on the island, there's going to be issues with miscommunication. There's going to be errors made. It's going to be not a pretty thing, but they will survive. And then once they merge into the orange, they really start to things start to come together. And that's when you start to have the ability to give longer discourses, like a reporter who can handle a spontaneous question and be able to respond. A survivor would not be able to do that. So what we see in K-12 education, just to give you an idea, they don't reach advanced low until the end of high school, typically. So it's kind of a shocker when I do this with parents, because parents just seem to think like their kids can do a lot or that they should be able to move more quickly, but that's not the case. So I think this is an important thing to note, that this is a very long running process that happens to our children in these programs. We do have professional proficiency. This is a term I just wanted to throw at you. This is the goal of a lot of DLI programs, is to get the students to advanced low. to a level of professional proficiency, meaning that they can do business, they can go out and conduct business using this language. And so if you take a look, you'll start to see across my slides the same color coding, which represents the proficiency scale. We apply it to everything that we do. So again, you have the levels there, and then you have in the middle column, you have the corresponding positions out in the workplace. And just from a glance, you don't even need to be able to read anything on here. You can see there are no jobs for anybody who is in the novice blue or even the first levels of green. So we really have to understand that this is a long-term commitment that needs to happen in order to reap the benefits. And so again, I've got all of these linked in here if you want to take a look later. ACTFL, that language organization, puts forth a really interesting graph where they show that they take that pyramid basically and lay it down on its side so that it goes novice, intermediate, advanced. And you can see that if you are in a proficiency-based program and you start learning a language in 9th grade, you should be able to get to the end of novice range by the end of 10th grade. Okay, that was not the case for me for French, not at all. But this can be done, and this is done. However, you can see if they're in it for 4 years, they can get into the intermediate range, but that's 4 years of high school. So if we jump down to where immersion students are, you can see K-12. All right, there you see that's when you get to advanced. It's very difficult to get to the advanced ranges if you only take 4 years in high school. If you're staying it during college, then you can get through advanced and into possibly superior. So that kind of gives you an idea of, I know there's a lot of parents that say, well, we're going to stop after middle school. Oh my gosh, you're getting out just at the best time. Just see it through high school. And then, I have 3 kids too. I know the struggles. They want to take other courses and whatnot. And I said, you're going to have to just take this through high school. This is just the one thing I'm asking you guys to just take through high school. And then sure enough, once they got through high school and realized that they already had the first 2 years of college done and they only needed a few more credits to get minors and majors, I didn't have to push anymore. So with that, I want to tell you, Paradise Valley, they have created these pathways for students to reach professional proficiency. They've been working on this for years now. And so by 12th grade graduation, their goal is to have students reaching that level of professional proficiency. They start out at 2 elementaries. Sandpiper Elementary has the Spanish DLI program. Whispering Winds Elementary has the Mandarin Chinese DLI programs. K through 6, and then preschool is also in there as well. So those articulate to Sunrise Middle School, and those articulate to Horizon High School. So I think it's very commendable to, I as an outside consultant just always love to brag on Paradise Valley because I've worked with them for a couple of years, but they're the first ones in the state to be able to add Horizon High School as doing something articulating up the DLI students into high school by offering a little content area. So I won't get into the very, very specifics, but just to let you know, overall, Paradise Valley is very ahead of the game. There are other high schools that are taking note, and I think by the end of next school year, there probably will be another 4 or 5 high schools that will be joining the ranks of DLI articulation through high school. So with that, I wanted to share with you a few testimonials of students that came from my previous program that I most recently worked in Cave Creek. This is Dominique, and her big thing that she took away was jobs. She's using this to further herself for jobs. So I'm going to just play a little bit of this and hopefully you can hear it. Oh, I have a couple questions. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I will get to the next FAQ here very shortly.
Hello everyone, my name is Dominique Reichenbach and I was in the very first cohort of the Spanish Immersion program. I'm now in my last year of undergrad at Arizona State University. Majors are Chinese and Global Studies, minors are Spanish and French, so really took the language thing and ran with it. I'm so grateful that I participated in the Spanish Immersion program, and I cannot stress enough how important it is, I think, for other students to also participate in the program. The amount of opportunities it has brought to me has changed my life. I'm actually right now in Taiwan finishing up my last year of undergrad. I'm here as a Boren Scholar, which means that I have full government funding to be here and that I have a guaranteed job with the US government when I return to the States. I would not have gotten this scholarship without being able to reflect on the Spanish Immersion program in my application essays, and the Spanish Immersion program has actually helped me land several government scholarships throughout both high school and college. I've also been able to use Spanish professionally as well as academically. I have done several internships where I translated articles. I used to work for a while as a Spanish language interpreter in Phoenix. So it's been.
And I'll stop her. I mean, she goes on, but she has definitely used the program to leverage her jobs. And she has, since this video, graduated from ASU, and she was very heavily recruited by the Department of Justice. She is now an information affairs specialist at the Department of Justice in DC, and she's going places. And she went through the Spanish Immersion program. However, here's another thing that I didn't even mention. Once they learn one language, she started to take Mandarin Chinese, and then she added French, and the languages just clicked for her. Because once you learn one, your brain knows how to learn languages and has those neuronal networks, that neuroplasticity that you hear about. And so she is trilingual, and she originally went through the Spanish Immersion program. However, like you see, she was in Taiwan and she graduated ASU with her goal was to get to superior in Mandarin Chinese as well, because she was in the flagship program at ASU. So amazing opportunities for students. This I'm going to kind of scoot by quickly in the essence of time, but this for parents that might be having some need some motivation for students to continue the program as they get older. This is a great website because it has languages and careers, and it has videos of, like here I put them on the left-hand side. So engineering, healthcare, law enforcement, and how you can use those languages with another language. How you can use those careers with another language. And there's videos of actual young adults who are doing that. There's also great publications in there. Probably one of the biggest, latest publications is the one that says that 9 out of 10 US employers rely on employees with language skills other than English. There's a big study on there about US employers and what US employers want and need. And there is going to be a 56% increase in jobs that require languages in the next 5 years, according to this research study on this website. So, and I clipped this out of the study because guess what the 2 most in-demand languages reported by US employers are? Doesn't mean, yeah, these are jobs in the US, Spanish and Mandarin Chinese. So there you have it. You don't even have to go abroad anymore to use your languages because we are just such an interconnected society. Okay, I have my FAQ time, and so I'm going to look over here. I have a few things in the chat box. Okay. Let's see. Thanks, Melissa, for putting those links in there in the chat. Okay, and yeah, mics are open. So does anybody have any questions or comments on the content so far? Okay, I will take that as a cue to continue. All right, so we move into now the how. How do we do this schooling in 2 languages? How do we do DLI? Because the idea is easy, right? But the execution is everything. And like this quote that you see everywhere, is it takes a team to win. It really does. And this is where in Sandpiper, I've shared all of the things that I know with them, and they understand this, and they have a team. They have an administrative team, all those schools that have those programs that have articulated through there, and they meet regularly to make this work. And so I just think this is very, very important to always have an implementation team behind what they're doing. So there's also something called the Arizona DLI Network Fidelity Assurances. This is a network actually that I founded way back when, and now co-run with a colleague of mine from Mesa. But we have put together 6 pillars of very, very, very important foundational things that have to be present in a successful research-based dual language immersion program. I will say that we have taken a lot of things. I can't take any credit for creating any of this, but maybe tweaking a few things. But there's a lot of people who in the field who started working on this way back when. Probably the most important, influential one is called, and I didn't put the link here. It's the Guiding Principles for Dual Language Education. And it's a guide that comes out of the Center for Applied Linguistics in New Mexico. And they go into a real depth on each of these pillars. And probably have a few more in there. This is what we use in Arizona. We know people are very busy. We've tried to kind of boil it down to what is the most crucial, and this is what our programs follow. And then when I work with school districts or that I do trainings for administrators, this is what we cover, and also with teachers. So Paradise Valley is very familiar with these, and I'm very proud of them for doing the hard work that this takes. So to give you a quick overview of the programs in Paradise Valley, it is a 50-50 model, meaning half of the day of the instructional time is spent in English and half of the instructional time is spent in the partner language. And so the teachers work really hard, and the administrators, they know this is one of the things that is a fidelity assurance that is non-negotiable. Meaning, when I come in, I say, okay, let's have everybody take a look at their schedules, and the teachers get busy counting up their minutes and looking at, okay, well, we pull out during this time, and we have this during this time, and specials and PE and music. And so we have to make sure we balance our time equally. And so teachers have worked really hard to put together pie charts, because that's what I want to see. We have to see it. We have to see the evidence. And so those are just some of the pie charts that the teachers have worked on. And then there's also, there needs to be a clear articulation, division of who is teaching what. Because if you start to teach, let's say, math on the partner language side, that's great if they're learning math in Mandarin or Spanish, but then how are they also learning it in English? So there has to be a very clear articulation of who is delivering the main content and the concepts and who is doing the bridging work. In other words, who is bringing it over and making sure a lot of the skills and the concepts will transfer automatically, but a lot of times vocabulary needs to be revisited. And with that, we call it bridging. And so that's another big piece that I love to work with teachers on, because this to me is the powerful piece behind the academic achievement results that are seen across these programs. Bridging across languages, meaning like what I just explained, math being taught in one language, yet it's reinforced on the other one, not repeated. They don't repeat the lesson, but they just reinforce and put in the language, the words maybe that didn't transfer over. And bridging can go the other way as well. So if they're learning how to write a paragraph, 5-paragraph essay in English, then the partner language teacher can also be doing that or modeling that in whatever content area they're covering in the partner language. And so this bridging back and forth is what makes this model a complete enrichment model for education. So I'm going to take a quick break and glance over here. Okay. Okay. I'm good. Good. Keep going. So with that, we get to the program goals. These have to be very clear, very clearly articulated, and they're basically the promises to the parents too. So they're very important. Typically there's three, the first three, and the fourth one tends to be kind of an optional one, but I think it's super important. So the first one, academic achievement, is super important. We move into some research behind that. Exercise for the brain. One of my favorite researchers, I put her link at the bottom. She's Canadian, and this is just one of my quotes that I like. And she's the one who discovered that we used to think that the brain turned on one language and then turned off the other one, depending on where somebody was or who they were talking to. Now we know that the brain always keeps, a bilingual brain always keeps both switches on. And so what happens is the brain is then constantly has to be alert and paying attention to which language am I supposed to use for what? Or I'm trying to pull this word out of this language and this language is getting in the way, but the bilingual brain is always exercising. That's the point. So immersion students tend to outperform their monolingual peers over the long haul. The result of this extra exercise is a more developed area in the brain of what's called executive function or executive control. It's the part of the brain that it has to do with attention. So Dr. Ellen actually said these programs are actually really good for kids who have ADD, because they need that, it helps them strengthen that attention part of the brain. She's also the one that found out that bilingual adults who continue to have this ability are able to offset dementia for 4 years. That was her number that she came up with later than a monolingual brain. So in terms of actual academic achievement, I was going to share 2 quick studies with you that you're welcome to click into later and get more information. The North Carolina had their end of grade assessments all put together into a research study by Thomas and Collier, who are guru researchers in our field. And if you pay attention to the red bar represent dual language classrooms, DLI classrooms across the state of North Carolina, and they have a ton. And the green and the blue represent non-DLI. And so you can see moving from 3rd to 8th grade, the DLI is always higher. These are very well implemented programs from a state level. This particular one, I just will have you focus on the purple highlights. This is from Portland Public Schools. They have over 30 years of DLI experience. They have 5 languages and 48 DLI schools in one school district. I mean, you can see there's places in this country where this is huge. They have a lottery for all of their language programs, and there's a lot of kids that do not get into the programs and because they don't have enough spots. But what they have found, and this study was controlled, they actually controlled by the lottery. They actually took the kids that got into the program and used the control group, where the kids who applied for the lottery but did not get into the program, and they tracked them for 10 years. And what they found, because sometimes parents or people, naysayers, will say, oh, well, the DLI kids always do better because their parents choose to be in the program. Well, this particular study took out that variable because it controlled for the lottery. Everybody applied for the lottery. It's just that this group got in, this group did not. But what it found is that after, by 5th grade, the English language arts, so reading tests, were 7 months ahead of their non-DLI peers. And by 8th grade, their reading results were 9 months ahead for DLI students compared to their non-DLI peers. And so that's where I really want to drive home that this is an enrichment program. If your child is gifted, if your child is not gifted, it doesn't matter. This program will bring the best out of your child. And so I have, again, the link there if you want to get to the source. So high levels of proficiency in a partner language, that comes next. Obviously, key understandings. The young brain is wired to acquire languages. It's one of the primary functions. I'm giving you a couple things that you can watch, okay? So if you have Apple TV, there's a great little documentary called Becoming You. It's about birth to age 5, and there's one segment that is on talking. And this segment highlights a family that is non-hearing, in other words, a deaf family, and shows how this child's brain is wired for languages. It doesn't matter that there isn't verbal language. This child starts to babble with their hands, sign babbling, because that's the immersion environment that she's in with her parents. And so these are all things that we can apply to what we do in the classroom. We don't need to translate for kids. We don't need to, I tell the teachers, don't come out of your target language, of your partner language when you're on that language side. Stay in there. Encourage your kids to stay in there. Don't, as they get older, especially, it just becomes a behavioral expectation that they have to stay in the language when they're in that immersion environment. Another great one is Naja. She's from, she works in Washington, but she does research on young children as well who are bilingual, and she's been able to prove that children know exactly who they can talk to in what language and what their response will be, and they will kind of choose, accordingly. So kids are really smart. If they know they can get away with, just using the easiest language that comes to them, they will. And so that's a great TED Talk to listen to as well. So you guys all know the way that we look at, the way that we assess languages is through an Apple assessment, which comes at the end of the school year, starting in 3rd grade. And everybody gets exactly this little report that has in little inverted pyramid, that it's the inverted pyramid. So now hopefully you're starting to see the pattern of the colors. And then you also see that it covers 4 of those 5 areas of communication. So those are kind of alternately assessed here and there, kind of like every 2 years, they come back and assess an area. And that's how we see how we're moving on that proficiency scale. In the meantime, what happens up to the Apple test? Well, teachers are trained in this, and they know that they have to be doing this in class every day. The kids have to be talking, they have to be writing, they have to be reading, they have to be producing and using the language. And so every day in class, teachers are doing ongoing formative assessment that builds up to the Apple test at the end of the year. And that's just one more drop in the bucket to give some data. Okay. Oh, thanks. You're putting everything in the chat box. That's fabulous. All right. So this is the 3rd one, and I wanted to quickly go over this one. This is Cameron. He is another graduate of ours, and he really exemplifies, he really took the goal of like identity in other cultures and feeling comfortable. And his talk is, I'll let you listen to a little bit of it as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Cameron Moore. I am currently a junior at Arizona State University. I am double majoring in biomedical engineering and Spanish linguistics. And I wanted to share a little bit about my experience and what Spanish immersion has done for me and what it has enabled me to do. I was, I think, in the 2nd or 3rd cohort of students doing the Spanish immersion program. And by far, I think one of the most beneficial things is that the program does in fact work. I am at a level where I feel comfortable communicating in Spanish and using that skill, marketing that skill for jobs and programs, internships, lots of different things. I have studied abroad twice now, once to Cuba, once to Spain, and I spent 3 months this past summer in Europe and speaking minimal English, and honestly, it was the best experience of my life. Spanish immersion taught me how to communicate with people and understand other people's perspectives, allow me to better time manage myself, and it's definitely a program that I would recommend for other students and other people in general, because it really opens your eyes to what is out there in that big, beautiful world that we live on. Thank you so
So that's Cameron. As you can see, for him, I mean, he was in Europe for a summer and barely spoke any English. And he's like, I was fine with it. I was totally comfortable. And I have to point out, these two students that I've shared with you they have English speaking parents. They don't have anybody in their household who speaks another language. So these are just the benefits that I wanted you to see, so you can see the end result and find some inspiration for helping your kids stay in it for the long haul, because I know that can be hard. And the last one I wanted to share with you is grit and determination. A healthy dose of grit and determination can also be an amazing outcome for students that participate in this program. This is Sammy, and she actually titled hers, and it's called Spanish Immersion and Being Determined.
Hi, my name is Sammy. I'm a current senior in high school, and I will be graduating in May. I've been in Spanish immersion since first grade. Originally, both my parents and teachers were very hesitant about whether the program was a good idea. For me, I have a learning disability which had a major impact on the decision. Throughout the years, there have been some hard times where I really struggled, and my parents even considered taking me out of the program. I'm very glad I stayed in the program, because the program has allowed me to be more determined, persevere, and prove to others that I can do this. I love the language itself, the cultures, and learning about what goes on in the other countries. We have all grown up with each other for many years and all have a very special connection, which I really enjoy. My teachers have been very supportive, which have allowed me to get to this point. Next year I will be going to ASU, and I will only need 5 classes to get this Spanish minor. I really recommend the program to anyone, and at least trying the program and seeing how it works, because for me this program has been the best thing.
So I hope you guys are all silently clapping, because whenever I hear her, she's amazing. So she had a learning disability. She went through the program with her IEP, and she was determined. She has learned to that nothing can stop her. She's stuck with it, and for her, a big part of it was being a part of that group. And so there's so many benefits to this program and many of them we don't even think about, right? When she reflects on that, she says she really appreciated being part of a group. She is now finishing up her AA degree, and she will be getting her social work degree, hopefully moving to ASU next year, and minoring or majoring possibly in Spanish. She's not sure yet, but that just goes to show everybody can do this program. It makes everybody better. And so with that, I just want to kind of wrap it up and say, for you as parents, what can you do to support your kids as you move into this wonderful road of DLI? Stick with it. Let your kids, as they get older, let them do the driving. I know that when we start, the parents, we put the kids in the program, we make the decision. And then when we get to middle school, the kids realize that, and they're like, hey, what about my decision? Well, I'm going to tell you, parent to parent, just have high expectations for them. And sometimes as parents, we know what's best. I can tell you, my kids fought back a bit they pushed back on that as well. And I was just very firm about that. And now they're very grateful that, that they did get that opportunity that they see how their world has kind of opened up. They can't see that when they're kids. They don't see that when they're in middle school. They don't see that when they're in high school. Their frontal cortex is not fully developed yet. So as parents, let them get in the front seat, let them drive, but hold true to certain things. And know there are going to be twists and turns. There are going to be speed bumps. There's going to be flat tires. And that's okay. I mean, my kids, I know that, each of them had something crazy happen. With 1 year, a teacher left mid-year or whatever. But in the long scheme of things, because you're talking K-12, it's only a speed bump. So hang in there, do what's right for your kids, give them this gift, and you won't regret it. They will drive back one day and thank you. I promise. So I want to wrap up tonight with just saying that I think I can't exactly see everybody that we have here, but I believe we have some principals with us, and we have Mr. Martin, Ms. Alcazar. I think we have Dr. Corson and some teachers. Hi, Amelia. Oh, and Lynn, the coordinator for all of the programs. You guys are all great. Mr. Brownlee, thank you for being here. I really hope that this presentation has helped those of you who were here tonight and those of you who listen to this later find some inspiration to, first of all, sign your students up for this program and then keep them in the program, because it will make this world a better place. So with that, I will turn it back over to either Melissa or Laura, and just want to say thank you, gracias, xie xie.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Really appreciate it. Boy, that was amazing, and just hit on every point that as a parent I wanted to hear. So hopefully the teachers and principals feel the same way. And Dr. Corson, it was so great to have all those details that you put in there. And now I can say to other parents, hey, this is why we want to do this. Thank you so much, Cristina.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. And I'll let you all get back to your evening. Have a great holidays and hope to see you in person very soon. Take care.